Hi and welcome. I have another art journal page for you today, so let's get started. I still have this crud in my chest, so I sound a little funny, but I'm adding first a layer of old paper. You can always tell the difference between old paper and antique linen by looking at your brush, or actually really the pad of ink. Old paper will give a green tinge to your blending tool, even though it doesn't look green on your paper. And I'm just putting it around. It doesn't have to cover fully, but I'm doing this kind of new technique I saw, so I wanted to try it out. I'm putting my ink on a stamping block and just adding, you can hardly see that it's on there, but it is there. And then I'm going to spritz it a little bit. I got too much blotchy on there, but you want to just kind of spritz it a little bit. I get better later. And then you're just going to kind of press it down in different spots. I actually really, after I got the hang of it, this is the first time I've done it, I really like this method, and I plan on using it quite a bit. So I think that now is shabby shutters, and I'm going to add that. It does look a little differently than if you were smooshing on your tabletop, but I don't know. There's something about it I do really like. I'm not saying it will totally replace my smooshing, but definitely will be adding it to the application methods that I use. And I don't think you waste as much ink. I'm going to dry because I will be adding some more blue, but I don't want it to turn to yuck, so I'm going to dry in between. Now let's see. That didn't really look like blue to me, but a blue label, but it is blue. And this is speckled egg. Pretty sure it's speckled egg. Yeah, my speckled egg label looks pretty white. Doesn't look very dark. I also think I'm going to splatter some speckled egg just to add a little bit more. We'll see if I think I do that. It's probably been 3 weeks since I did this piece because I had Christmas, I was gone, and it just been kind of a craziness around here. So I'm trying to remember as we go what I do. Okay, yeah, there's my splatter of speckled egg. Just kind of looking at my piece here on the table and thinking of what order I did things. I'm going to add a little bit of vintage photo around the edges. And then I'm going to do some stamping. I'm going to use Archival Ink graphite, and I'm going to use one of my favorite collection is the faded type, and I'm going to use this, looks like an alphabet of, you know, like primary learning to write. And I'm just going to put pieces of it in different places. I'm not going to do the whole thing anywhere. And then I'm going to use this stencil. I got the stencil at Simon Says Stamp. It's like a ledger book page. I'll have the link, well, I'll have the information of it in the description. I'm going to take pieces of it and add some texture paste. I like that little seal. I'll probably, yeah, I think I get that. Just putting some in different spots on the page. Not covering the whole page by any means, just grabbing some pieces of it. And this was white opaque texture paste from Tim Holtz. It will absorb any ink to some degree. So it won't stay pure white if it's on top of ink. But I do end up adding some color to the texture paste once it's dry. And I don't want any texture paste in the fold of the book, in the binding. So I'm just making sure that there isn't any that might block the book from folding. So it is dry now. And so I did move my stencil around, so it's not going to be as easy as a different kind of stencil might be, but I'm going to add some color to the texture paste, and I'm going to do that using my brushes. These are also the Tim Holtz line. I think I'm using Salty Ocean. That's what it is. And I'm just kind of going and highlighting the texture paste. I end up just removing the stencil and just touching the texture paste itself with the brush, kind of just skimming it over the top, just because it's going to be too hard to line it up. I'm thinking about it, but I'm like, oh, okay, that's not going to work. All those words look somehow the same, so it's hard to figure out where that stencil should lay. And eventually I get tired of looking and just remove the stencil totally. So it just adds a little more dimension to the texture paste so you can see it a little better. And now I'm going to add some vintage photo to my pieces that I'm going to use for collage. Somebody asked me recently, do I do 3? Do I do 5 pieces? I don't have a rule. I tend to use odd numbers. 3 is a common number I use, and 5 is a common number I use. But if when I've laid those, it needs something else, then I'll add another one. I don't have like, oh, I've already added this many, I can't do anymore. It's just whatever looks right to me. All 3 of these items are digital downloads, and they will be listed in the description, or have a link to them in the description. I buy them off Etsy, and I print them on 90-pound white cardstock and fussy cut them out. Some things are a little more difficult to fussy cut, like those flowers. Now, you can see in those flowers when I turn it over. Oh, that's right. I'm going to be using some of my low profile 3-dimensional dots. I do have them in my Amazon storefront. What I love about these guys is that they are low profile. They come in 2 different, well, the package has 2 different size dots, and it's just the ones you see so much on the market are so thick that it really raises them up too high. And so that's what I love about these, is they're low profile. And I'm grabbing a small one thinking that would work, but even the small one is a little too big for the area I want it. So I just cut it in half. It's stuck to my finger. And peel the backs off. I was saying something else though. Oh, on this flower, when I turn it over, you'll see that there is some white area in it. And what I usually do is, if I just really, it's like that's going to be really difficult to cut out and it's small, I'll often just add some of the background color to cover up the white. So in this case, I did add a little bit of shabby shutters, so it kind of just went well with the background. I do glue down anything that is gonna be problematic, and so it doesn't rip off or bend up. And then I'm gonna glue the rest. And I wanted people to see this 45. Not that the 45 has any relevance, but I just didn't want it to hide so much in the background. And you already saw so much of the flower that I thought it was okay to cover up a little bit of the leaf. And then the only other piece I'm adding is a Tim Holtz Small Talk. I'm going to take a white one because this is light, and it says be open to whatever comes next. I'm going to add a little bit of ink. I'm using some old paper just to kind of make it not white. I'm just going to glue that down at the bottom. And that is the last thing I do. If you haven't subscribed, I invite you to do that. If you like this piece, go ahead and give me a thumbs up or a comment. I'd appreciate that. And I have some final pictures coming up, and I will see you next time.